Hello and welcome to the full interview with Michael Eppinette. If you're here, you're an absolute nerd. But you're also kind of cool. So keep watching.
Welcome back, everyone. Before we start this spooky edition of The Roy Show, we would like to officially warn everyone that this video will be discussing the sci-fi action thriller film Prey. So for those of you who don't like movie spoilers, cover your ears or put on earbuds or something. All right, now that the fake people are gone, let's welcome very, very special guest, Michael Eppinette.
Hello, everyone.
All right. Michael, can you introduce yourself?
Sure. So my name's Michael Eppinette. I'm a CHS alumni. Let's see. I graduated in 2015. Headed off to Arizona, where I graduated with a degree in film and TV. Then did not use said degree, but instead worked as a concept artist for different freelance art jobs. But in my senior year of high school, I entered this contest called the Stan Winston School of Character Design Kaiju Concept Art Contest. I forget the name specifically, but essentially the contest was to design a kaiju, right? So in line with, Godzilla, King Kong, big giant city destroying monster, right? Enter the contest. It was a very exciting time. It was hilarious. I recall skipping about a week of class, all right, camped out in the library watching this live video because they were streaming it live of them building this 8-foot tall big monster creature, right? And it got to the point the librarians, my teachers, everyone knew that there's a certain time of day that I would just ditch and head to the library and camp out in front of the computer and watch this live stream, right?
No more
It
class.
was incredible. Right. But yeah, no, it was absolutely incredible. They flew me out to Los Angeles. I got to meet the folks building the costume.
Wow.
They built this whole miniature set and everything was amazing. This was like early on in my senior year, actually. I must have been about this time of year, actually. Yeah, that's nuts. Oh, here he is. I promised I would introduce y'all. This is Klaus. He's our resident monster.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they what you get your
Alrighty.
inspiration from?
Right. Yeah, no. From there, they introduced me to a company called Studio 80i. All right, and they had close connections with them because Stan Winston Studio, they did Jurassic Park and Terminator and Predator, and they knew Studio 80i, who's worked on films like Tremors and Starship Troopers and all the Predator versus Alien movies. So, yep, I met them. They had me on pretty shortly after, just almost like just giving me a shot, letting me cut my teeth on the Shane Black Predator movie that came out in 2018. They had me do some sketching on that, and since then they called me back a couple times, but I didn't work too much for them until I got that call that was like, "Hey, you want to work on the next Predator?" I'm like,
That's how you got it? They just called you, "Hey, you want to work on the next Predator?"
so, something along those lines. I believe I'd messaged them a couple weeks earlier saying, "Hey, you have any work for me? I'm hurting." Right? And then sure enough, God willing, they had something for me. And it turned out to be Prey. So that was a blessing.
All right. And on to the topic of Prey. Let's ask you a question about it. What is the first Prey movie that you've actually seen?
Oh, okay. So the first Predator movie I actually saw. Yeah. I'm trying to think because my first introduction to the Predator was actually at a wax museum, believe it or not. I believe in Chicago. All right. I was a little kid and it was like the horror part of the wax museum, right? So you'd see all the presidents and the pop stars and whatever, right? And then you get to the horror part, and at the entrance was the Predator, like right? It was all lit red. It was terrifying. I didn't know what the movie was. All I knew that there was this creepy hallway full of things that could hurt me, and this was the guy letting me in, right? Um, I was terrified. I didn't go down the horror hallway, by the way, right? So from the get-go, the predator was emblazoned in my mind as um this horror icon, right? I recall seeing part of the film when I was a little kid, if not the whole thing, maybe just walking in on my dad watching it or something. And I remember the unmasking scene, if you're familiar, right? In the original Arnold Schwarzenegger 1987 Predator film, there's a scene in which the predator has exposed himself. He's uncloaked, right? And he's about to go mano a mano against Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? And it's the cinematic unmasking scene where he pulls out the little ventilator tube deals. He pulls off the mask, and then there's this moment when you realize you were not ready for what was underneath the mask, right?
Oh, it's a big surprise.
Yeah, yeah, certainly. So that was my first introduction to Predator, just being like, "Oh my gosh, what am I looking at?" Right?
What
So
is that?
yeah. And then later on in life, me and my little brother watched I forget what year it came out, but it's called Predators, right? I think it was a Robert Rodriguez movie. Don't quote me on that. Sweet, but yeah, there's my little story.
And since you were like part of the design team for the new Predator and the Prey movie, this is a question from my producer Kevin. Actually, why did you choose to change the iconic Predator mask?
Oh, the mask. All right. The mask design went through plenty of iterations. One thing we knew from the get-go was that this was going to be a subspecies of predator, right? So it wasn't going to be the standard jungle hunter species, right? And it only makes sense to me that if you're dealing with a different culture of Yautja that's been isolated from the culture that we all know and love, you're probably going to end up with different like cultural armor pieces, right?
Um,
Yeah. So the idea to have a half mask, to not have it cover the full face, that was the director's. Um and ultimately, yeah, that was the director wanted the mandibles exposed. And at the get-go, it was like,
so
okay,
more
how are
like
we gonna yeah, yeah. It was funny though, because towards the beginning of designing the creature, it was proposed at one point, like, oh, what if we have the mandibles like encased in flesh, right? So they're kind of like, in order to see them, he has to open his mouth. It's like, okay, let's try and figure this out. And we kind of got somewhere where it's like, all right, this makes a bit of sense. It kind of concealed in these weird like flesh sleeves, right? But then it got to the point where it was like, all right, if the mandibles are to expose or if the mask is supposed to expose the mandibles, but the mandibles are supposed to be concealed. Like, how are we going to pull this off, right? So we proposed all sorts of different designs. A lot of the mask designs actually like filled over the face, and then they were liking I did some design that was kind of skull-ish, right? And then they're like, okay, let's go this bone mask direction. Let's have it be the trophy of another creature that he killed, right? And I've seen a lot of talk online about, is this a river ghost from the 2010 Predators movie, right? Which was essentially just a creature that was in the 2010 Predators movie. And yeah, look it up. I have to admit that I used it slightly as reference.
just a
So
little bit.
yeah, yeah. I pulled it up. I was taking a look at it. I was like, all right, I see it. And a lot of folks made the connection, and that was cool.
And while we were watching the movie, actually, one of my one of my big comments was when we first saw the creature. It was like when it cloaked. First thing I saw, wow, this guy has actual 18-pack abs. He's ripped. What drove that decision to make this guy absolutely jacked?
That's a funny story. That is a funny story. All right. So it starts off, the original art direction was to make this like a really, really slim predator. Okay. So this is the first time we were going to see a really like lithe, svelte, is that how you pronounce it? Predator, right? So the original designs were borderline emaciated, right? He was very thin and creepy. Okay. And we send the design off, right? And we get a note back from the director, and he goes, "Well, where, I'm missing the pecs." It's like, okay,
Pecs.
yeah. So we can give him pecs, right? So we kind of the Predator goes to the gym, right? Heads back to the director. The next art direction is more shredded. I'm like, okay, all right. So
Is more muscular.
so
Go.
right. So I kind of pack on some muscle. Now I was kind of hanging tight to the. I was kind of liking the really slim direction. I thought that was kind of creepy and fun.
Oh yeah.
Um, Ultimately, I think the musculature they went with really worked for the character, right? Because a character in the film, he's got quite an ego, right? Um, and you get the sense that he's a seasoned hunter, and he's got a he don't care.
Yeah, I noticed as well that the character doesn't have a lot of armor. That like a choice that just the character does.
Yep, that is exactly what went down. So funny enough, we spent weeks trying to develop armor for him, right? Um, and there was a direction that we went with that I thought was pretty cool, where we were designing essentially, what if it was body scarification, right? And he were to have this tool or something that he would scar his own tissue with, and the tissue would bubble up and become calloused, right? And that would essentially be his armor. But ultimately, what they went with for the character is like, this guy don't need it. He don't want it. He wants the challenge. He knows what he's up against, and he doesn't consider it so much of a threat that he needs armor. And that's going to be better for the character, right? Because he's really egotistical. He's really cocky, right? Um, but yeah, so that note went back and forth, right? More shredded. I would do more muscles, right? Send it off. More shredded, right? Like, okay, I'm missing something. I'm missing something, right? So I Google online world's most shredded man, right? And it comes up with this Eastern European dude with his photo shoot, like shirtless in his construction hat, right? Named Helmut Strebel, right? I was like, okay, all right, I think I get it. This man is like, he looks like he's made of beef jerky tied together in knots, right? So essentially that's what the Predator became, was just the world's most shredded man converted into alien form. We took a few liberties, and one thing was we split the pecs up into different pieces, right? So it's almost like this gradient from pecs to abs, but that's essentially where you end up with such a jacked Yautja.
So it turns out the Yautja just went to the gym a couple times, just
Oh,
got
yeah,
more and more jacked each time.
exactly.
Oh my goodness. Okay. And can we expect anything else from you in the future? Just more like character designs or like working in film in general?
Absolutely. Yes, there's some stuff coming up that I can't speak too much on. Um and then you can look forward to seeing some of my stuff in the video game world as well.
Video
But
game
I can't,
world. Oh.
yeah, certainly. So I can't speak too much to what's going on, but yeah, you can expect some artwork on screen, hopefully.
I'm excited. Okay. And uh, last two questions. First
Hmm.
one will be, what would you say to anybody like trying to get into your line of work?
Okay. Um First off, enter contests, because that's just practically how I met people in the industry, was following, pages like the Stan Winston School that are like in the industry and looking out for artists, looking for up and coming artists, enter those contests. Um, if if you've got a knack for it and you've got an eye for it, you kind of know that, right? Um, so just nurture your own skill, go crazy, don't hold back.
Just go.
Just imagine like crazy. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Just don't hold back. That's kind of spacey, but also I would say there's meet your heroes, get on Instagram, message them every day, bug the crap out of them. They'll respond at some point. Um I'm serious. I'm serious. I met my hero. Is well, two of my heroes. One of them was an artist named Carlos Huante. All right. I met him at a conference called Monster Palooza. Yeah, go to conferences with the people that you respect, where they are. Go to them, meet them, show them your work. Right. I showed Carlos Huante my work. He he silently looked through every page for an entire like 5 minutes, which is a lot of time in silence. Right. He hands it back to me and says, "Son, this is chicken scratch." All right. And then he proceeds to give me some of the best advice of my life. Simple stuff like go study Michelangelo drawings, right? Take a look at anatomy, and like learn how muscles like weave into each other. Um, Whenever someone you respect gives you advice or gives you something to do, obey them. That's very important. When somebody you respect gives you advice, obey that advice, and you will move leaps and bounds in the direction where you want to go. Because you're a kid. I was a kid. I'm a very recent adult. So trust me when I say listen to the masters, because when I did, my eyes were like, whoa, and it just opened up a whole new world for me. So yeah, that's the best advice I could get or give, rather.
Meet your heroes and
both.
listen to their advice.
Yeah.
And also, bonus question: do you have any can you comment on your other film? Oh, is it Clever Girl?
Oh yes, Clever Girl. Oh wow.
Clever Girl.
So yes. If you're interested, that was my senior thesis film from the University of Arizona. Trying to think.
Oh, by the way,
it was
guys,
inspired
every
by
single one of these films will probably be down in the description. So if you want to check them out, just head down there.
Yeah, certainly. So Clever Girl is my senior thesis film from the University of Arizona. It was inspired by, first of all, my deep love for Jurassic Park, and second of all, my also deep love for my African gray parrot, right? That I had in high school. Yeah. Her name was Data, after the Star Trek character. But yeah, the running joke was she was our in-house Velociraptor. So we thought, all right, I came up with the story. It seemed like a good fit. I met an artist that could do like the special effects, and we were jamming and having a good time doing that. And then yeah, we made it happen. But it's essentially, we filmed it at the Arizona Biosphere, which is essentially a giant indoor jungle in the middle of the desert. It's very weird and cool. But yeah, it's about this crazy little puppet dinosaur that's running around the jungle. So what was that?
Was that in campus? Like of the
No, the biosphere, it was several miles away, but they had connections with the University of Arizona, so they let us film there.
Wow. Okay. Well, it was a
Fun stuff.
great film. Like I enjoyed it so much. And
Oh, so you saw it.
yes, I did.
Lovely. Yeah, that's a fun one. We had fun making oh no, we just moved. I would have shown you baby Dixie here because I have the prop here somewhere.
Oh man.
Yeah, but it's funny because we didn't have anything for egg yolk when she hatches out of the little egg, right? And that egg was a nightmare. We're like, how are we gonna make an egg that you hatch out of, right? We ended up using paper mache, and it's like, okay, whatever. Sea turtle eggs are leathery and soft, whatever. This will work just fine. But I was looking around scrambling, like, she can't hatch out of a dry piece of paper. Like, that don't make any sense. But the laboratory we were in, which is a laboratory at the Biosphere, there was a giant thing of Germex, right? And we had some yellow paint. So just on the spot, we dumped a bunch of yellow paint in the Germex and just like glopped all this Germex into this egg. So when she hatches, she's like slimy and looking like she's being born, right? But yeah, there's a lot of redneck ingenuity that came into play.
I mean, that's really what's filmmaking all about. Just very creative answers to unorthodox problems.
That unorthodox problems is very correct. Yes, sir.
And finally, for the very last question, what is your opinion on applesauce?
Do we have another hour?
Perhaps.
When I was a baby, I was so obsessed with applesauce that they would mix it with all of my baby food, in order to make me eat it. It was a staple. It was a necessity.
A staple.
Yeah, so I'm pretty sure like my blood is at least 4% applesauce. But that's my thoughts.
He has applesauce in his veins. It's actually my mortal nemesis. I, for one, don't like applesauce. I despise it. So, well, it was great hearing what y'all had to say. We are going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we will be doing a bit of a game.